All right, now we're going to go into something that's completely different. Let's go.
The law of attraction states that like attracts like, but I never thought it would go this far. This is a drop of my blood, and surprisingly, McCormick red food coloring looks exactly the same as a drop of blood. So, it's attracted to it? What? Today I'm going to show you why food coloring is not only attracted to my blood, but it's attracted to food. And when you put a bunch of drops of food coloring together, they sense each other, move, and react as if alive, locked in a continual dance of attraction and escape. This is a video about the mystery of attractive liquids.
In 2009, an undergraduate at the University of Wisconsin was doing an experiment where he dropped.
Okay, I want to guess. So my first thought was the whole. Well, actually, I had two things come to mind. One, iron in your blood. I don't know if that has anything to do with like magnetism or something like that going on, or some charge, right? Charged particles, and it's like, oh, okay, so it's attracting somehow, right? So there's that. Or if it's similar to osmosis or diffusion. So I mean, you could think of maybe the air as a semi-permeable membrane, right? Anyway, I'm just some fucking retard saying all this shit, but that's what I'm thinking, right? All right, let's see what the
some
thing
drops
is.
of food coloring onto a sterile glass slide. To his astonishment, the drops seemed to come alive. They began moving on their own and interacting with each other. Had he just discovered a new form of life? He studied this phenomenon on his own until later joining the PhD program at Stanford, where he and his team finally got to the bottom of what was going on. They found that these droplets mimicked living cells and could even self-sort. In this video, I'm going to show you how this works and even show exactly what to do to mimic this experiment at home for yourself.
The reason this happens with food coloring specifically is because of a special ingredient called propylene glycol.
This is a drop of water, and this is a drop of propylene glycol. When I put each of these liquids on clean glass slides, they spread out almost completely. But something interesting happens when we combine the two drops into one drop. They don't spread out as well. So if we look at the drop height versus the percent
What is he saying here?
This is a drop of water,
Okay.
and this is a drop of propylene
Water,
glycol.
propylene glycol.
When I put each of these liquids on clean glass slides, they spread out almost completely. But something interesting happens when we combine the two drops into one drop. They don't spread out as well. So if we look at the drop height versus the percent of propylene glycol, we get a curve that looks like this. For some reason, when we mix the drops in almost any ratio, the drops get an edge to them that puff up a bit. The reason this happens is due to one of my favorite phenomena in physics called the Marangoni effect.
Near the edges of the drop, you get higher evaporation rates than at the center. And because water evaporates hundreds of times faster than propylene glycol, that means that the edges of the drop have higher concentrations than the center. And since water has a higher surface tension than propylene glycol, it pulls the propylene glycol up into the center. So there's continual flow from the edges of the drop towards the center of the drop.
This keeps the drop perked up a bit. So when the evaporation of water is uniform around the edges, the drop just sits there. But then something magical happens when the evaporation of water from the drop isn't uniform. It can move. For example, if I place another drop of the same mixture of propylene glycol and water near each other, the water from each of the drops starts to evaporate. But notice how in the middle of the two drops, the evaporated water builds up more. So there's a higher relative humidity in between the drops than on the other side of the drops. Water doesn't evaporate as fast when there's a higher humidity in the air. So that means on the outside of the drop, there's a higher concentration of propylene glycol due to the faster evaporation of water on that side. So the surface tension gradient is no longer uniform, and the flow goes from low surface tension to high surface tension. So that means each drop flows toward the other. This is amazing. They're literally following the vapor trail of each other. They sniff out the water vapor in the air. So that means if I just put something that has water on it, the propylene glycol drop can sniff it out and find where it is and follow it. It's like the drop is attracted to anything with water on it, even my finger.
Now you can understand that there was nothing special about it being attracted to my blood or the apple. It was just that both of them had water in it.
So when two drops have the same
Okay, so it's going towards the water. Low surface tension to high surface tension. Or no, high to low. I'm like trying to think of how that relates to what I said earlier about the whole osmosis diffusion thing. Because it's like, so it's going towards where there's more water, but where there's more water is actually, but say like, there would be a less concentration of, I think, propylene glycol, but you could say that about every point outside of that drop. But anyways, interesting.
concentration, they move towards each other and merge. But something even stranger happens if the drops have different concentrations of propylene glycol. If the drops are different, they're still attracted to each other, but once they come close to each other, the propylene glycol-rich drop attacks the water-rich drop and drives it away.
Okay, so that is related to what I was saying, right? So they go to each other because of the whole surface tension thing and the relative humidity differential. I don't know if I used differential properly there. But then when they make contact, it's like the one that has the higher concentration goes into the one that has lesser concentration, which is what you would expect from the diffusion of a substance in water, right? Osmosis has to do with the water moving, right?
Really, the water drop is pulling the propylene glycol-rich drop. If I make a path
Oh, okay, then that would be osmosis, right? Anyway.
for the drops, you can see that it just drives it around and around in a circle. This can even go uphill against gravity. The two drops pushing each other is basically the same mechanism that's causing either drop to move in the first place. The flow goes from low surface tension, high propylene glycol areas to high surface tension, high water areas. What's really neat about this is that the liquids can even self-sort. But before we continue, I want to thank the sponsor for this video, BetterHelp. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via messaging, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist in the app or online anytime and schedule a live session when it's convenient for you. And what's nice is if your therapist isn't the right fit for you for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you'd expect from in-office therapy, but with more scheduling flexibility and at a more affordable price. So get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/actionlab, or just click the link in the description. And thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to our experiment.
Okay, so here's another benefit I would say to React content, is particularly when a content creator you're reacting to has an in-video sponsorship, right? Now, this maybe isn't a good example of one of those, since there's a lot of controversy regarding BetterHelp, but I would imagine some people have had good experiences and many have had bad, and you're only going to hear about the bad ones, right? So I don't have much of an opinion on it. I've seen a lot of the Action Lab videos before, so I know in like tons of his videos, people in the comments are like, "I can't believe you're still taking sponsorships from BetterHelp," blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. But anyway, if you think it might help you, here's you could help out the Action Lab by end yourself, you know? So there you go.
If I arrange the liquids so that they go from high concentration of propylene glycol to low concentration, then whatever concentration of drop I roll down this incline, it will find its corresponding concentration bin. This is because the higher water concentration drops get repelled until they find their same concentration. This is so cool. So if you want to try this at home, it's actually not that hard to do. but you have to be very specific with how you set it up. First, you need very clean glass or it won't work. The easiest thing to do is order some microscope slides from Amazon, but you can probably use any flat sheet of glass that's really clean. Then you need to heat it up and burn off any organics that are on the glass. This will help the drops not get pinned in place. So you can hold it in a flame like a Bunsen burner for about 20 to 30 seconds. Then you need your propylene glycol. Now you can order this online as well, but you can also get a solution of it from your grocery store. Most food colorings have propylene glycol as the main ingredient, but you have to.
You can just get propylene glycol on its own. Like you would see it in probably the pharmacy section. I think it would be labeled like as a skin protectant. It might be like near lotions or that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, I used to buy I used to buy it back in the day. Um, so man, people probably don't even remember blue cigarettes, right? So right now, vape is the whole thing, right? Um, I'm trying to think if we called it vape back then. Uh, but yeah, like there were the blue cigarettes, there was like the Enjoy and all this. I don't think those are a thing anymore. But it was like, yeah, I mean, I never smoked cigarettes before, but my cousin showed up and he had this like electronic he was he did smoke cigarettes, so he went to those. But it was cool. It was cool watching them. You'd be like blowing smoke rings, but they were vapor rings, right? And yeah, it was badass. And you could get ones that were non-nicotine having, right? And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get me one. And I had tried his before, right? So when you vape, man, I haven't vaped in a long time. But yeah, when you vape like a nicotine vape, right? You get that throat hit, which is another term that I haven't heard in years. So there's that throat hit, right? You can feel like that kind of a burning sensation in your throat, and it's like a little bit uncomfortable, but also kind of good at the same time. And that's what she said. Um, uh, but yeah, when you get it without nicotine, you don't feel that, and it's really unsatisfying. So I ended up getting ones with nicotine, and then not too much longer after that, I'm fucking smoking cigarettes. So don't vape, folks. It's not good for you. It's you hear all this stuff about gateway drugs being a thing. It's like, oh no, it's not actually a thing. It can be a thing for some folks. Be careful. Be careful out there. Um, and people say like, oh, it's not dangerous, whatever. Like, aside from the whole lungs thing and blah blah blah, it raises your heart rate. And like when you're not even doing anything, you're sitting there, and now you're sitting with freaking 100 beats per minute, right? That's not good. Not good for your heart. It fucks up your sleep if you're doing it regularly like some of these folks do, like I did back in the day. Dude, my sleep was not fucking good. I It was not a good time, but it was fun. It was fun. The brand I ended up getting a lot, I don't know if they still exist, was called Totally Wicked. And they had these freaking cool vapes, and they had like the fucking coolest, newest shit, right? And what you could also order from them back in the day was like a vial of like fairly concentrated nicotine solution, unflavored. It was just like high concentration, like dangerous warning label, like you get it on your skin, you might poison yourself kind of thing, because nicotine absorbs through the skin. And yeah, so we would get that, and then we would go to a website that sells products for making your own homemade candy, right? And so we would get some candy flavoring oils, and then we would also go to like our local Walmart or other grocery store and get a bottle of propylene glycol. And we would mix the nicotine solution with the candy oil to flavor it. And then we would add in propylene glycol to do one or both of two things. And the main would be to dilute the solution of nicotine so it wouldn't be, so we could make it as strong as we'd like, right? And vaping this stuff straight out of that nicotine bottle was like, no, don't do that. That's really bad. And just not comfortable at all and not satisfying at all. It wasn't good. So you'd want to dilute the nicotine. And then also, there was a few different ingredients they would use for these vape juices, and I'm sure it's not that different now as it was then. But propylene glycol was one of them. Another one was, I think, vegetable glycol or something like that. Anyways, the propylene glycol would make some fat ass clouds, you know what I mean? So that's another reason why we would use that, was to kind of add a bit more oomph to the clouds that we'd make. Man, we did so much customization. Like, so they would also have in the cartridges like a bit of like cotton or something. That's basically the wick for the liquid to get it to the atomizer to vaporize it, right? But what we would do is we would get these instant tea packs, right? And this particular type, I don't remember what brand it was, but it was like the tea leaves, stuff. I don't know what you call it. It's all, ground up herb stuff, right? Was in this mesh container thing. And I think it's the same thing that's used in some like fish tank products as well. But it's like this, I guess, some kind of a plastic mesh, right? Anyway, we would use that instead of cotton, and that would get more liquid to the atomizer, and it would just like wick really well. Anyway, we did all this fucking crazy shit. Vaping's bad, folks. Don't do it. But it was fun experimenting back in the day, just like experimenting like this. But don't experiment with your health. Learn from my mistake.
Make sure there aren't a bunch of other ingredients. For example, I tried this with this cheap brand that has a ton of other stuff in it, and it didn't work at all. But this McCormick food coloring works great because it's just water and propylene glycol. So you can use this and just put tiny drops on the glass slide and they'll start moving around. And also you can use a Sharpie to make boundaries for the drops. The Sharpie's hydrophobic, so it repels the drops enough to form a barrier. This is so fun. So you can make little racetracks for the drops. And thanks for watching another episode of the Action Lab. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, remember to hit that subscribe.
All right. The Action Lab, always fun to watch. I'll go ahead and subscribe. But yeah, check them out. Great stuff. The Action Lab. You probably heard of them already.